Hey guys, welcome back to the Design the Life You Love with Lynz podcast. I'm so happy you're here. This is the podcast where we talk about intentionally living your life, following your intuition, your whisper, your guidance, and living a life that truly lights you up. I'm so happy you are here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's dive in. Good morning, my loves. Today on the podcast, I have Kate Saint Clair. She's a human intuition expert, a psychic medium, and an intuitive advocate who has been teaching intuition as a practical, embodied skill since 2007. Born highly intuitive, Kate found strength through her challenging childhood with her connection to the spiritual world. Through her book, Be Guided and Be Great, live programs, and ongoing communities like the Clair Club, Kate creates grounded, validating spaces where intuition can be explored safely and confidently. She devotes her work to normalizing intuition and helping people trust their inner guidance with clarity and confidence. Kate, welcome to the show. I am so jacked to have this conversation. We are definitely speaking the same language, so I can't wait.
Thank you, Lynz. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about how you ended up here as someone who's going to talk about all this awesome stuff.
Okay, I'll try to narrow it down because for all of us, it starts when we're little, but depending on, your generation, depending on your parents', openness to these types of things. I was raised really Catholic and we went to church and all those things. And so there was a lot of like not talking about it. So sort of my first memory was that I was like, even at 3 and 4, I remember that I'd be at my grandma's table and they'd be talking about my grandfather who passed away about 20 years before my birth, and they'd be talking about him, but not to him, because I could see him sitting at the table with us. So, even at like 4, I was like, wait, why are we not talking to him? So I was just observing that. And then as I got older, I made that connection like, oh, they don't see him. And I didn't have language for that. I didn't have understanding. I didn't have language. So one of the sort of, and then I was a little kid who kind of just channeled stuff. Like, let's just say if a cousin came into the room, and I remember a lot of things happened at like 4 years old. And if a cousin came into the room and I could felt like she had on extra weight, I'd be the little kid that was like, oh, you feel like you're getting fat? And then I get in trouble. So there's a lot of like, why would I say that? I wasn't thinking it. Now I would call that claircognizance, where you just channel, people's feelings, people's thoughts, and you don't know that you know that, so you just feel like a jerk. A lot of foot in the mouth, I'd get spanked for saying mean things, or I was raised by a lot of secret keepers, so I would just say the secret, and then I get in trouble, and then they would not like know how I knew that, but that was like I just get spanked. So I was about 6 or 7 years old where I finally gave my first ultimatum to let's just say the spirit world. Just before this, let's just say I was 4 or 5, 6, I noticed these like black cougars would really swarm around at night. And or I remember being left at home about 5 years old, and these I call them black cougars because typically they came out at night. I know cougars aren't black, but they were cougars, but they looked black. So what happened was I'm 6 or 7 and I'm outside roller skating, and my sister says, Mom and Dad are going to get divorced. She came out and said, Mom and Dad are getting divorced. I didn't know what that meant, but I kind of had a sense that like everything was going to change. And so I went into the bathroom and locked the door. And I remember like giving my grandpa an ultimatum, like, I was just so scared. Like my fam, like they're going to get a divorce. Like, I don't know what that means. So I was like, Grandpa, like if you don't show me yourself with my eyes, I can't talk to you anymore. And of course he couldn't manifest. I mean, he's in a different dimension. And that was obviously what we call clairvoyance, but I didn't understand that. I was too little. So it was my first time where I was like, okay, don't talk to me anymore. Just if you can't show me with my physical, like that was not what I said. I mean, but like with my eyes, just don't, like, I can't do this. And so it was the first time I kind of tried to shut it away, but then my family broke apart and I was genuinely really on my own, where the adults went and kind of created new lives on their own. And I was kind of more of a burden that they kind of had to, so I was really on my own, it took me 30 years to understand what the cougar energy would be, that they were there to help me like be on my own and be brave and be safe and be protected. But that took a long time to get to that kind of understanding of that. So from then on, it's kind of like any ghost I'd see, which they're everywhere. They're a natural part of, reality, a part of dimension. I just like imagination. It's imagination. You frame it in the only way your brain knows how, like imaginary, because we all agree you can have imaginary friends. So we're okay, our generation, imaginary friend. So I couldn't necessarily tell the difference between, say, a ghost, which would be in a lower vibration, versus, my grandpa or, loved ones on the other side. To me, they were all just everywhere, and I was imagining it. So that created a lot of, or let's just say, if my stepbrother would date a new girl, there's one particular I was like, I don't trust her. But everybody's like, she's great, she's wonderful. I'm like, nope, and I'm maybe only 15, and I'd be called like, oh, do you have a chip on your shoulder? Or, like, so I'm a problem. So it's like, I don't mean to judge people. Or truly, if I was like, that person feels dangerous, or that I don't get a good vibe, it's like, don't be judgmental. So when I got to be an older teenager, it's like if I saw danger coming, I'd give him my phone number because I'm wrong, right? So it
Mm.
was totally twisted in me. So, and in my generation, there was no such things as psychic mediums. Therefore, there was no language for it, right? So I was always trying to get help for what I don't know. I didn't have language. Like I'm sensitive. A lot of boyfriends are like, "You're too sensitive. You're too sensitive." And I'm because I'm very empathic.
Mhm.
Right. And so I believe, yeah, there is something really wrong with me. I'm too sensitive, like, but I'm also really tough and independent, so living in that paradox, which I think so many people can relate to, the paradox of being so tender, but also like knowing people's BS, and kind of, being a leader, but not really having a voice, all the things because you want to be nice, but you're called to speak the truth, but the truth's not nice. So it was twisted and it just wouldn't go away. And when I was 20, I moved to New York City and I was kind of trying to get help for it. And a lot of like the people kind of weird and eccentric, like in an extreme way. So you're like, well, I'm not that. So I get help, and I'm like, that's scary, or you're doing it weird. And I don't do it like you. So I must not be, and kind of just keep trying to shut it down. And
And when you
what,
say tried to get help, you were seeking out like psychic mediums because that's what
yeah.
you thought maybe was the,
Spiritual teachers. Yeah, I was
yeah.
trying to find the answers in other religions. I was trying to always find an answer in any sort of spiritual text. I'd
Mm.
interview my Mormon uncles, like, why are you Mormon? Like, why do you believe what you do? Or, there was one time I was 9 years old and I just always talked about spirit stuff. You couldn't, to my mother's chagrin, like I just wouldn't stop. But I was 9 years old and I was visiting friends across the street and they were Jehovah Witness. So I'm interviewing and I'm asking all the questions, so Jesus will come back and then what, like, what do you believe? And so the mom gave me a little coloring book. And so I went home and I put it under my pillow so I could look at it without, getting in trouble. And my mom actually came in and tucked me in that night and she found, like, what is this? And I'm like, you just couldn't stop me. I was always trying to find the answers for what was going on.
Mm.
There was very much a calling, but also an obsession because you can't stop being sensitive even if you want to. And if you're trying to find the answers, so you're not, all those things.
Well, and it's a longing to truly know yourself, I feel like.
Yourself and others. And it kind of, if you come from a broken family, you're always trying to, well, if I knew better and if I had the wisdom, I could help my family, so you're always like, it's in the name of everybody. It's in the name of being a better friend. It's in a better, getting answers for yourself. And maybe if you weren't so broken, you could be better, all the things. And I moved to Seattle, tried to find help, couldn't really, so I came back to my hometown in Montana and got married, had my first baby, and then we quickly moved to New England. And so while my baby would sleep, I would just really start to read specifically psychic medium books. Like, okay, I think this is what it is. And I predicted so many things, and as you know, because I know sometimes with prediction things, like if you just knew something was going to happen and it did, sometimes you felt really guilty.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
like you could feel the burden of that. And it wasn't always like, yeah, I predicted it. Look at me. Like a lot of the times you're like, I could have stopped it. I could prevent, all the things you feel. Yeah. And you're shaking your head because of course, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because everybody does to some degree, you're empathic. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to read the books. I got really into Sylvia Brown and there was a lot of answers in her work, but I still didn't believe it, even though I'm looking at the dead with my, with my own, intuitive eyes. I was still like, maybe I'm not though, right? Because I didn't relate to her story of 300 years. I come from 300 years of psychics. I'm like, I didn't, so maybe I'm not. Oh, I don't really see it in my family, so maybe I'm not, right? Try to make the story as short as I can.
No, you're good. I like
We
all the details.
Well, I'm trying to bridge everybody into the story because, people act like, oh, like everyone's just so excited to be psychic medium. Like, no, sometimes it's a struggle. And sometimes people are so comfortable with it, but you're not yet. And you haven't quite found that language yet. And that doesn't mean that you're not experiencing it too, right? So when we were in New England, my husband got a promotion in Fort Collins, Colorado. And so my baby was like 2 years old. And a real pivotal moment for me was that. So I try to find answers through other religions, always interviewing from the time I can remember. Why do you believe this? Well, why do you believe that? Or, kind of seeing myself in other things. And then trying to read real like psychic medium books, kind of trying to find my way there, right? So one day I take my little toddler, and now I'm pregnant with my second child. So there was a little pond, a little park called City Park in Fort Collins, Colorado. And my little girl, we're just toddling around this kind of path around the lake. And there was a man coming towards us, and I very clearly heard a voice say, pick her up and take her towards people. He's going to follow you. And I was like, picked up my toddler, cut across the grass. Sure enough, I look back and he is following us, but we're by the vehicle, we're by other families. But what totally freaked me out, Lynz, was like my 2-year-old didn't take her eyes off of him. And she's not a real high eye contact kind of a gal, even then. So I fully understood the 2-year-old got the same message. You know what I mean? So then,
Oh,
okay, my kid has it too, right? And then you just like when it's your child, it's like I need answers. Like I'm not, you say that prayer, like please take it away or help me understand what's happening, so I have answers for her.
mm,
Literally like a month later. Do you know who Carolyn Mace is?
no.
Energy Anatomy. Okay. She's, I would call her a medical intuitive. And she does other amazing spiritual texts, like on intuition, but a lot of medical medium type of stuff. So
You
I
need
went
to.
to the Carolyn Mace lecture at the Lincoln Center. And when I opened that brochure, there was a local psychic medium in there. And I just knew she was the one who could help me. And so when I walked into her office, pregnant, little toddler in tow, she's like, you can do this work. That's the first thing she said to me. And I'm like, I don't understand I don't understand how you're doing it. I mean, I've read, for a decade. I don't still quite understand. And she literally just kind of put me in her mentorship. She invited me to the little intuitive practice group that night. And I was so shy back then, Lynz. I couldn't even say my name without shaking and trembling and, just really voiceless. I mean, I endured so much abuse as a child, just violence and, just always kind of trying to tear me down. So, and then I didn't know if I had the gift, I didn't know if I had the skill, any of it. So I said, well, I'd be honored to come and watch, but I'll probably just watch and not say anything. She's like, yeah, right. Anyway, sure, come on, I was like, sure enough, she broke us. And when I first walked in, there's like 20, 25 people there. So a lot of people for my energy, and she puts everybody, and she's like, everybody, like, tell me who you see. And everyone's like, Mother Mary. And, I see Saint Michael and Archangel Michael, right? And I'm like, I don't see anything. I don't feel anything. So I was like, I don't belong here, right? So she broke us into little groups. And though I truly believed I'd keep my mouth shut, like stuff just came out of my mouth, and then it was validated by the two people I was practicing with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just knew you had a son on the other side. I just knew your daughter was graduating, but I didn't know how I knew. And that's what I always struggled with. And so it was a pivotal moment. Like her and that experience reading for strangers in real time. And then I don't think my mentor ever understood what she did for me, but what she did was she explained my clairs to me. So over
Mm,
the course of the next year training with her, she's like, well, you see it because of your clairvoyance. Well, you feel it because of your clairsentience. I don't think she understood that the magic key to understanding with your brain how your intuition works is understanding those clairs. And I'd say using all of them because you do.
yep.
You do. Like you as a mom, like as a person, as a friend, your friends talking to you, you see images, you have feelings, you hear those guidance or you hear voices, and we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
natural for all of us. So really that was, and then what she did was she actually went to China for a month and sent all of her clients to me, and that sort of like
Wow.
validation, and then scared the hell out of me to take on that responsibility. Truly, she changed the entirety of my life. And I started doing this work in 2007 professionally, and I was still not content with just being able to do it. I wanted to understand how.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the work of mediumship for a decade, and during that time, I learned how our intuition works. And so in 2018, I pivoted and I started training people how to use, control, and trust their own intuition. And that's my career now. That's my dedication. That's my everything now, is to teach you how it works within you in a real practical, realistic way, and how to get the brain on board, because our brains want to understand. And I'm sorry, but I went to a lot of classes where it's like, close your eyes and just, meet your guardian angel. It's like crickets. I didn't see nothing. And everybody else is like, yay, and all these crazy names. And I was a person, I didn't get anything. So we do a lot of blocking. Our mind does a lot to protect us. Sometimes the more intuitive you are, the more blocked you are. Truly.
Oh,
Just
I
like the more
agree.
emotional you are, sometimes you're very emotionally, I'm very stoic. I was raised by stoic people, and I had to learn how to access my feelings and learn. When you become a mom, it's like, yeah, you better learn how to have some different feelings other than like neutrality and rage. It's like that won't work. you know so I equate intuition as so natural. It's just like our emotions. You have them whether you know it or not, and you can learn the mechanics of it and really really deepen and use them and have some control around them. And
Mm,
that is in your clairs, but in the end, your intuition.
yeah. Well, I know that I was very disconnected from my intuition for probably the first 30 years of my life. And after you start peeling back the layers and getting in touch with it, it's like taking off a pair of dirty glasses or something. And you're like, wow, how did I not see that or know that or trust that? Um, Hindsight's always 2020, but it makes it makes such a difference when you are more connected and you start trusting those whispers or those intuitive hits or um, and about the clairs. I didn't know anything really about the clairs until probably it was probably in the last year that I kind of dove into that. And I remember the teacher who was teaching this particular class, talking about how we all have it. We all have psychic abilities. And that was just like almost a relief for me to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you help people start trusting them? How do you help people who think they don't have intuition, who think they don't have any psychic abilities?
Yeah. Okay, so we have to establish that you already have it. It's already within you, right? You see, feel, know, or hear at a minimum, right? Some people do are heavy on the like, some people call it alliance or clairolification, where you can smell. Like oftentimes I can tell when an ant's thinking of me because I can smell her perfume. When she crosses over, I'll smell her perfume. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's her first go. She's been wearing the same perfume for the last 40 years. So we have to establish you're already doing it. And what I can promise you is you connect to way too many things. This is not an issue of opening. This is an issue of closing and refining. Because right now, untrained intuition in everybody I train, it's like being in a vehicle with 10 people behind you, and if somebody's talking to you, you don't hear them. You know what I mean? Like you're right. And so at a minimum, your intuition, it connects to you, like I feel guided to do this. Your intuition, those clairs connect to your environment, whether your dog walks in the room, you don't see him, but you sense him. And then claircognizance, your dog needs water. Right? You don't need your dog to sit there and beg and cry. You just know he needs water, right? So it connects to our environment, i.e., this was another like clarifying moment for me too. My 10-year-old son at the time walked in and he smiled at me, but I felt like something was really wrong, right? Feeling clairsentient. I'm like, but he smiled at me. So I'm asking, my guide, like, do I need to take action? She says, get up, go. So he had came in, smiled at me, and went upstairs. And so I went upstairs and I said, what's going on, honey? And now I could feel he's trying to protect me. Like, I'm like, no, I'm the mom. Like, whatever happened, you tell mom. Like, you don't have to work, you do this by yourself. So sure enough, like a neighbor lady lured him into her house and scolded him. But it's like that, it practically, that's what's going on. I mean, you can call it mother's intuition and we can call it gut instinct, but your clairs, it's reading the environment, it's connecting to lots of things. Your clairs are clairs, they connect to the guided realm. And sometimes you have too many guides. So I
Mm-hmm.
train you to connect with just the birth guide. You can talk to, like I would definitely train you to connect with the different guides you have. And at the end of the day, I want one voice. I train people to talk to the birth guide because they hold your life chart. So all the promises you made, all the things you're going to go through, all the healings, all the things, I train people to talk to the one voice so that we train when you're comfortable, and where you're okay and we can in a safe environment, understand what they look like, what their name is, what their voice sounds like. So when you need like, am I left or right? You know whose voice is telling you to go left.
Cool.
So, and then your guides, your clairs are connecting to the heaven realm, right? And unfortunately, but it does connect lower. So we can get the lower, a ghost realm is a lower vibration, and your clairs will let you know that that's there. At the end of the day, it's just letting you know what's around you, what's there in your environment. That's natural.
Mm.
If there's a ghost there, it's not your fault. They're like a natural part of the environment. Now, whether you want them in your home or not, you have some options. You don't
Yeah.
have to just. So we established you already are intuitive, and untrained intuition, it's all too much. I'll give you an example. Have you ever been at like a party and you felt fine? Right, I'm an empath, so I'm rarely fine at parties. But I'm doing my best. I'm hanging out and I'm there and I'm present, and then all of a sudden you feel really ugly, or all of
Mm.
a sudden you feel really stupid. And it came out of nowhere, and now you're like, oh no, I feel whatever it is, right? What happens is somebody walked into the room, or you tuned in to the energy of somebody standing there and they don't feel pretty, or somebody's across the room or they just walked in and they feel stupid. But as an empath and or untrained intuition, you just picked up that energy and we interpret it as our own.
Ooh.
So untrained intuition, half the time we're feeling feelings that aren't ours. And we hear voices in our head, and untrained, it all sounds like a thought. So we'll train it, we just refine it, like, oh, that was a male voice, right? So when I didn't know whose voice that was, when that guide said, and it was my guide, right? It took me years to understand that was a guide, but that guide said, pick her up and take her towards people. He'll follow you. I mean, that wasn't my thinking voice.
I get chills every time you say that. Oh my
Yeah, and it
gosh.
was very specific. And so those are the things, right? So you already have it, you're connecting to too much, and I would put you through my program to help refine it. And we help slow it down. And at the end of the day, you must understand which Claire you're using. And I would teach you to use all of them because if you're 100% empathetic, how can we possibly be clear? I train so many empaths is like, I feel. Well, wait, maybe we can ask for guidance to be audible. So like, tell me it, get it off me, help me stop feeling it. Tell me, like, give me a message, yeah, go to
Something
that
that's a
party
little
for a
easier to
moment.
digest.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can make it 25, 25, 25, that's ideal. But at the end of the day, if you don't even know you're doing it, how can you stop it? How can you refine it if you don't understand how you're doing it?
Yeah. Your birth guide. I have never heard of that. So can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, I hadn't either, right? We always say guides, and I love the guides. I do love that, right? So in my profession, I'd what I would do is I always start off as a medium because if I don't address your family at the beginning, I'm lost because they'll talk over me, they'll talk to each other, you know. So out of politeness, I was like, I learned, okay, I'm going to talk to your family so I can be as clear for them as I can, and then I'll ask them to leave the room or step back. So what I noticed was there was always, okay, still brings me pain to admit, but the first like 4 years of my career, listen, our family is the same as they were when they cross over. If they weren't, it wouldn't be evidential. I mean, if your dad was funny and sarcastic, and then as through a medium, he came through wise and, dry, that's not very good evidence because your dad wasn't like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
At some point, they still have to look and sound. And as I know you already know, like some people cross over with the right life review and they are sorry for some things. Some souls aren't. So what happened was I would channel messages from moms that were still kind of bossy. And now I could feel my clients' feelings were hurt. But the message came out of my mouth. So I felt really, ugh, I didn't like that. So it took me a long time, but it took me about 3 to 4 years to be like, I'm going to offer the message as specific as I can, because that's the evidence. Like your dad had to have black hair, he was 6 foot tall. Do you know what I mean? And he had to be athletic or contemplative or contemplative, whatever the personality is. It has to be specific. So I'll offer messages specific, but I'll ask if it's true with that birth guide because I noticed there was always one birth guide talking at me and kind of taking over. And then with time, I'm like, they have like this chart in their hands, and I didn't know what that was. So I finally asked, what is this paper? Sometimes paper, I didn't know. And I just like, it's a birth chart. And another guide said that's a life chart. So at the end of the day, it's like, it's our contracts. It's the one guide that's here to help you live the life you came here to live.
Your intentions.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I could talk all day about birth guides, but it's the one guide that really can help. Right. So we have other guides. Like over the course of my career, I've seen so many women with mother guides. And I was like, well, why would a woman need a mother guide? And they, very clearly over and over, it's like not all mothers, not all women are natural mothers. So in those situations, they have extra help, they have extra support. And I know I'm a writer and I know a lot of writers and a lot of people have writer guides. So we wouldn't want to ask the writer guide, do I take a left or a right? Should I take this trip or not? They kind of don't care. Like they're helping you with your craft, if you will, right? So
Mhm.
we asked that birth guide all the mundane, even like, should I drive into town now or later? Like whatever it is. Is it okay if maybe you're having some health issues, like, is it okay if I have the sugar or like, should I knock it off? Knock it off. Right. It's not for them to boss you. It's just for them to help you achieve the life you've come to live with that real specific support.
Mm. That is so fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
So I lost my dad November of 23, and it's thank you. It's so interesting how often I feel him, and I have a little spot in my dining room with his picture and some things, some roses from his funeral, and um, I feel very connected to him all the time, and more now than I did when he was alive. So I know he's one of my guides. And I know that I also have this higher self guide. Like I see her, she's always in white and has lots of flowy clothes on. And oftentimes she is like hovering over the river in my backyard. There's this spot that is my absolute favorite place in the whole wide world.
Mhm.
I always say I'm never leaving there. Like literally that's where my ashes are going to be spread. And so when I see her, that's where she is. Um, so it's really interesting this birth guide, and I'm very drawn to my birth chart and human design, and that takes in account all of these things, right? So that is really fascinating. I've never heard anybody talk about a birth guide. I love that.
I'll expand on that a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hierarchy for guidance is just again, because I'm so passionate about, well, when I can train you to really use your clairs and you can consciously connect, then you can connect with all your loved ones, like so at the beginning of my career, I'd have like 20 loved ones walk in. Where do you start? I mean, it was so hard to and I didn't have the voice. Now I'd be like, this one steps forward first. Show me what you look, because I need that evidence first, and or you guys need to separate because everybody's together. Right? I didn't have the voice. I didn't know what's going on. All I knew was there's like pressure and I didn't know where to talk, how to talk to it. But then at the end of the day, it's like they're all people. A lot of them love each other, so they're arm in arm. It's like separate, stand forward, say it again. You went too fast. So we're learning how to talk to the energy or talk to guys or talk to our loved ones. Like with your dad, like show me a sign. Like, no, really, I know you're standing here. I sense you. I feel you. Thank you. But maybe you're feeling a little kind of prove it. Like, so, hey, put on a song for me. Hey, Dad, like do a little something extra. It can take time for them to be able to do that because not. I'll give you just one example of this man named Bruce who taught me how this works for some spirits. So I'm really in my career and I started doing Ask a Medium shows. So I would do a private event where I invited 15 guests and I would talk about intuition for like the first 15 minutes. And then I read every single guest there. And there was this lovely woman named April at the event. And so she called for a private reading afterwards. And she walked in and the first spirit comes right at me and she's like, she's smoking and she's like, I'm great Aunt Betty. And I know these women, right? These northern women. It's like, okay, hi, Aunt Betty. I just knew that April wasn't here to talk to great Aunt Betty, but I was like, I see her, I can smell her, I see, she had a hell of a personality. And then April validated all of it. Yes, great Aunt Betty. Yep, she smoked, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there was a second spirit that came forward, and I'm like, they were so good at communicating. I could see them, I knew their name. It was just great. But I was also like, this is not who she's here to see. I felt it. And so everybody kind of emptied out, and I'm like, I just keep hearing the name Bruce. And then April started to cry, and she's like, that's my dad. And I was really aware, and maybe I felt a little extra safe with her. I was like, I don't see him though. Like, I don't understand what's happening. I hear him and I can feel him, but I don't see him yet. So just give me a minute. And so I realized he was watching Great Aunt Betty talk to me. So he was kind of trying to figure that out. And I didn't understand that they did that. I just made assumptions that they can all connect and they all know how to speak this language, but no, sometimes it takes them a little time to learn how to talk to us because it's a frequency thing. Like they're just vibrating much faster. The other side is much faster than this dimension, of course. So he was really my teacher to be, and to this day, he still talks to me. April now does this work professionally because she actually that particular experience made her go into this work. It was so profound and life changing. And the other day in Claire Club, I had my guests read Bruce, and he was such a good one of the gals who was new to the group, she thought she couldn't do this work. I'm like, just give it a try. Just write down what you see, feel, know, and hear. And Bruce showed her his gray sweatshirt, and Bruce showed him, his facial hair. And April was able to validate all of that. And with the sweatshirt, April said, I literally wear that his gray shirt all the time. So new student literally thinks she has no skill. He was so good showing himself that she could, in that moment, she realizes she's a medium.
He's
You know,
kind of
so
like a tutor or something.
yes, absolutely, right? A guide too, right?
Yeah.
Some of our ones do become guides, like your dad would be such a good guide for you. Yeah. And it's not like with the birth guide, you stop talking to everybody else. No, it's just like we can, oh, you can have your time with him. But when there's like a yes and no, life, death kind, when I really want that trained. So if life gets hard, of course you'd go to your dad, but you also have, your birth guide there too.
Yeah.
Or
They're kind of like specialists, right?
yes, exactly. So birth guide, really quick. This is why I train this too, because I was always like, I was never like, I don't know what, let's just say I always had fear of authority and I don't like authority. So when my birth guide presented herself to me, I was like, cool. Like I didn't understand it was extra special. I didn't treat her like, I was like, okay, birth guide, awesome. Anyway, I'll still do what I want, you know? And I like, if she told me to go left, I'd go right. I just really, because of my traumatic childhood, I couldn't trust it, or I just couldn't trust authority. And I thought that that's what, like, I still thought we had real free will and I would exercise that freely. So it's like if she says go left, I go right. And then I was mad because now I'm in trouble or now I'm in traffic, all the things like I'm pissed. And then you start like, well, she did tell me to go left. So at the end of the day, it's my fault. So I have a family member who was going through bankruptcy. And this particular family member my birth guide was trying so hard to get me to have real firm boundaries with, but this particular family member had a real sacred title, and I wanted to be close to her, you know. So she went through bankruptcy. So I say, would you like to come to Colorado and live with us? You know, like I was happy to help, right? And the person's like, yeah, I'll come out for a month and you'll do all these things for me. And if it goes well, kind of all these things. So I went up to meditation. And again, I'll take her guidance, but I didn't always do what she said because I just thought it was a suggestion. So I said, oh, how are things going to go? I'm really excited. And my birth guide yelled at me and she left. Right. I'm thinking that can't happen. They're love and light, right? So about 2 weeks she was gone. And so I finally asked another guide and I said, is she ever coming back? I'm so sorry. What did I do? And he just said, you're not listening. And this is actually quite dangerous. And you're not seeing it. So she's just like gathering more information because you don't listen. See, and when she came back, it's just like if she says jump, I'll say how high, because sometimes the guidance is life and death. And when we think, I'm strong, I can handle it, sometimes we're not. Again, with that tender heart, you're not as strong as you think you are. And that's where I was like, my tender heart always gets me. I'm still that little girl who's like, you feel dangerous. Here's my phone number. I'll help you. Like, no, like you're not mine to help. Right. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, the guidance is like, get away from me. Right. This is not my karma. This is not my experience. But because of my young training, I was kind of twisted up with that
So
stuff.
out of alignment, yeah, and
Yeah, I was out of
conditioned.
alignment. Exactly, Lynz. And just trying to, for a lifetime, and it did. I listen now. And I've been able to do such profound things so much shorter or walk through a little bit of hell if I have to. Sometimes guidance doesn't take away the humanity of our life. We still have human things that never goes away. But
Right.
if something terrible happens, which it does, it's like, why? I'm a big fan of the why. And even the why doesn't take away the pain of it or make it better or make you not have to have the boundary or walk away or whatever the thing is, or step up and step in. I'm a little bit better at that.
Hmm.
Um, Knowing that it's guided, I can just do it now. But I didn't start there. I did not start there. It took me about 30, I was probably 38 when I was like, yes, ma'am, whatever you say. Left? Okay, happily. We're going left.
Well, she
That's,
got your attention by taking 2 weeks off, I suppose.
yeah. And again, I have enough self-awareness where if a guide's like, you have a strong will, I do. Like we have to at some point, like my strong will is a good thing and sometimes it can be bad and bad in that it gets in my own way, like that's the context of bad, it's just we can get in our own way. Uh,
Mm.
we don't have that like, oh, you're guiding me because the paradox of being strong is my big heart, and at the end of the day that's kind of the thing they're kind of trying to get me to refine and learn, is that you can still behave strong and stern with giving love. I always thought love meant just letting you do whatever you wanted to me, like we have those complex things that we go through in our human experience, and that the birth guide can help us know how to navigate those moments when we have great belief systems or the things that kind of kept us being vulnerable, in my case vulnerable.
Mm.
you know
So once you started to step into this, um, how much did your life change? Like your relationships and I imagine everything changed drastically. Yeah.
yeah, everything. It's like there's so much violence, and then I became a mom and I had to execute ruthless boundaries to protect my children, because at the end of the day, I this is really personal, but it's like, when you have a desire just to be somebody's daughter or somebody's, sister or somebody's loved one, but they don't necessarily see you or treat you that way. Or it's like, oh, if you're family, I can hit you. Oh, if you're family, I can beat you down and I can say terrible things to you. It's like when I became a mom, it's like, no, you can't. So I began to like, wow, I just got off the phone with this person and I'm angry in my mind because I don't have a voice to be honest. And, so in the name of like protecting my child, even from my own anger and hurt and frustration, it's like, I may not be able to speak to this person. Right. And it's like, oh, we're living such an amazing time where it's like the study of narcissism and the study of all the things can help you understand our loved ones in a way we couldn't, 30 years ago, casually, let's just say.
Yeah.
You can probably go to a therapist, being diagnosed and what have you. Um, so being able to have ruthless boundaries where now that little girl is 21 years old, she has a sparkle in her eye and she's got hope for her future, and that spark is light and bright in her, where I have family members whose children are lost in all the things where I was like, thank God for this work, because I'm strong, but my love for them would have kept me in the mix, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to execute that boundary because I love them. But I'm responsible for my son and my daughters. I'm responsible for that light in them. And now my son's graduating high school and my daughter's 21. They're just amazing, sparkly human beings. And to me, again, I wouldn't have had the strength had I not been guided. I couldn't have done it without this work, and so it's changed everything. It's given me a career, it's given me purpose. It's the more you know who you are as a soul, why you're here, who can make you stop when you're guided, who can stop you when you're guided, when you're like, is this guidance or is this like my want? Oh, it's your want, i.e., there's some gray. Yeah, you can do it, you don't have to, but it's like, no, you're guided. You're guided to stand up for that person. You're guided to just, your body just gets up and moves. I know you've experienced this where your body is just like moving to help a person, and you're like, what?
Yep.
And you're not embarrassed. You're like, you're welcome. you know, I'm here. Like I'm fully here. I was guided. I'm here. I'll do whatever we got to do. I'm present with you. I'm here with you, whatever that is. Or even also a blessing where I was like, the guides were like, back off. This isn't yours. Okay. Great. I'll back off. Even with as your kids get older, like you still have that motherly instinct to like, I'll protect you. I'll speak for you. I'll do right. And it's like, no, they need to. Right. So you're like, you got that. You can speak up for yourself. You got this. Get that boundary. Absolutely give that person a boundary. You know what I mean? Where it's like you're able to give it to them because your
Mhm.
guy's like going against your impulse as a mom, like be quiet. I need all that too, because I can I could live for them in ways that they need to live for themselves. And all that is just beyond, I just get guided for that in every moment. Where's mine to step up? Where is it to step back and all the things?
Mm. Well, that brought tears to my eyes.
I know you can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being a cycle breaker, like there's so many people that I know who are living in pain and it's not theirs, and they can be the one who breaks the cycle. It's just a choice of courage, and it's a knowing that it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, the sacrifices you make for the hope that it's the right thing, right? So you have to wait 20 years, right? Sometimes to see the evidence of that because everybody else is telling you you're selfish, or you're this, or you should be this. I not tried that. You should be more loving. I was like a doormat loving, you should be this and that, and you should be stronger. I'll be strong. Yeah, hit me in the face. I can take it. All the ridiculous stuff that people, unhealed people tell you and project on you to make it okay what they do to you.
Mm,
So I always say your intuition is voice recovery. The more you know what kind of a soul you are, the more you know why you're here. If I'm here to give a boundary, I'm going to give it. And I wouldn't have that authority, I wouldn't have the voice for it unless I knew it was guided. That's to me, it's also voice recovery. Because, like I said, I couldn't even say my name. I was so shy. I was so terrified. My nervous system was so throttled. I was just lifeless, truly. And it's like, well, who are you to be psychic medium? It's like, I was born for this. And at the end of the day, it's what I'm good at. And the same thing, I was told I'd never be a mom and nobody'd ever love me. I'm married 22 years, and I'm a freaking good mom. So it's all kind of the things where people say to you, you'll never be loved, you're not psychic medium. Who do you think you are? It's like, at the end of the day, those are things that this work is here to help you understand.
hmm
When you experience it and your mind understands it and you develop the emotionality to be able to kind of handle it, does that make sense? Like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm going to be a jerk to you because I'm guide. It's like if the moment is the kids need to get out of the road, that's not the time to say, get out of the road, cars. No, it's like, get out of the road. And,
Yep.
and you have that authority, and your kids look at you because they trust you. They're going to get out of the road. But if you don't trust yourself and you're like wishy-washy, they don't trust you. So when you can speak from that point of view, people listen. And that was the thing, like early in my career, honestly, when I realized this was what I was good at, I was so mad about it. I was really kind of a baby about it because my big prayer was like, I just want to have a normal life. I don't want to tell people I'm a psychic medium. I was really embarrassed and I hated the pedestal of mediumship. I was so uncomfortable with it. And I got a skin cancer scare about 6 years into my career. And I knew it was because I was not comfortable. I was
Your
not
own skin.
comfortable with any of it, saying the words, doing the work. Who are you to explain why somebody's child died? I just was like, why me? Like I was such a baby, honestly. And I got that skin cancer over my heart. So the kids were little and everything that makes you a mom, the hugs and the picking up and the dishes and the picking up. I couldn't do any of that because of this scar over my heart, the open wound, if you will, at the time. So the paradox is like I had a young aunt up in Montana passing away from cancer. That wasn't lost on me either. It's like there's a lot of cancer in the family. There's a lot of like, so
Closed
much
heart.
trauma. Yeah, closed heart, out of protection. And just it was about a 6 month ruthless awakening. Like, this is what I was born to do. And you can call it psychic medium, you can call it intuition. At the end of the day, that's what we call it. So we can't patronize everybody and call it some other word. I wanted to, trust me. Like, can we come up with a new word? A new word. This is what we call it. But the blessing was during that awakening, they really took it off my shoulders where it's like everybody is, and it's your job to help them understand that. So that kind of like double-sided, like, this is so normal. This is so natural. Like, just grow up, get over yourself. And at the end of the day, you're just helping people understand it in themselves. I was like, I could do that. I could do
Mm,
that. And
yeah.
I did. I finally accepted it, and my life's different. This is totally different. Everything's changed.
Yeah. You're living a life by your design.
Yeah, yeah, I love it when you say that. I think that's important too because, when you come from a lot of trauma, and I know you can relate to this on some level, it's like you don't really know who you are. I mean, you've been lied to your whole life, it's like, but then a lot of people they see your spirit and they want you to be the leader and they want you to make all these decisions. I was like an 18, 19, 20-year-old real estate agent because I was the oldest 18-year-old you've ever met. Like, I was an old lady, and I needed to survive. So you're not going to figure out I'm 18. Like, they
I
all
feel like
thought
I can relate to that big time.
yeah, absolutely. Right. And I was really proud of that. But I got carried away, so I lost my train of thought. Totally
Um,
lost my train of thought.
no, I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You were a real estate agent at the age of 18.
Yes.
Um, shoot.
Scott, we were talking about acceptance in it and all that stuff too. And I said, you can relate to this too. It's gone, Lynz.
Oh, the trauma that you endure
Oh,
and
thank you, honey. That's exactly it. Yeah, you kind of grow up and right. So I was like, I have to survive and I have to do it really in a grand way. So I was a real estate agent. And then I met so many amazing people by being a real estate agent that I moved to New York City. And again, you're just like, well, if you're going to New York City, you should do this and do that. But I was lost. It's like people always expected a lot from me. But again, like, you be the leader. Well, I didn't really have a voice. So it's like, I know you're asking me to be the leader, but I can't because I can't even say my name, right? So much of what I tried to make work and happen wouldn't work out for me. So again, you kind of feel like a victim, and you kind of like when I realized I had a birth guide, I was so pissed because at the end of the day, I was like, where have you been? You know what I
Mm.
mean? I've been through so much hell and there's been so much trauma. Where have you been? Like, if you can guide me, like, really sarcastic, you know. It's like you have to realize, like, I try to be what my family wanted me to be, you know, and then I would try to rebel to run away from one bad situation to another. They'd never let that work out because I was running away. It was coping mechanisms, you know. And then even in my marriage, it's like, good, there's safety in a good traditional marriage. That's my answer, you know. And then at the end of the day, my husband's not a family leader. Like, I am called in this particular life to lead my family, right? But the first couple of years of marriage was just hard because he didn't have it in him. So now I'm a victim again. Well, why isn't he leading? You know, well, because it's not supposed to be that way for me in this particular life. So once I just took over through the skin cancer, I was like, I know where we're going. I know what we're doing, you know, and he's like, thank God, because he didn't know what was happening. Like, our family life is much better because I knew I was to be the leader. And I think so many women suffer with that because we're all told the man leads. Well, not always, just not always, you know. And when I realized with the skin cancer, it's like I had to surrender to this is the work. This is who I am. That was my family. This is the work I'm called to do. And at the end of the day, all you can do is surrender, you know, and it changed everything.
And surrendering into your purpose, like one way or for, and I'm very guilty of forcing, trying to make things work because I have an idea in my mind of how things should go. And God's like, no, I got something better, or dream bigger, or nice try. And I think where we get in trouble, where we find ourselves in depression or unhappiness, is we are not facing what's right in front of us.
Definitely. For a lot of reasons, you know, that's why you can't just say, oh, just trust your guidance. It doesn't work that way. Because again, how do you know? Like, a lot of times I would want to, like, I'd be guided to, let's just say, we do a lot of moving. So we were guided to move to California after we just spent a ton of money on a new house in Colorado. Literally 5 months later, there was guidance, move to California. And logically, it made no sense. But the guidance was like, yes. So we did. You know, and again, I couldn't have done that because I was always kind of trying to, like, let's move backwards. Let's move back to Montana. Like, I always wanted to go back to where I felt like it might be safe, you know, safer, not realizing I was doing that even. So kind of like when you live a guided life, okay, yeah, let's move to California. And it turned out to be just more grand and more amazing for my whole family than I could have ever rationally thought through. Same thing with here. We moved back to Colorado for another 7 years and it was fabulous. And then my husband got another promotion to Illinois, you know, and the kids are teenagers now, like college age. You know, my daughter was in college and is like, are we all going? Yeah. And then, like, we like this house. Should we get it? Sight unseen, we bought this house. This is like my favorite house. We didn't even see this house before we bought it. So, like, truly, when we're untrained and when we're living not like, I love that how you're like that life you created, because I do feel like when you live a guided life, it's that co-creation.
Mm.
So you're surrendered to, like, okay, we're in Colorado now. Okay, we're in California now, right? Because it's guided. Like, I have peace with that. And also, like, it better be good. I always have that human, like, don't mess with me. Like, I feel like that. And I feel like the older I get, the more I am trying to take conscious control of the quality. Where before I was like, oh, we've moved to Colorado, and I'm a little passive about that, kind of backing into my guidance. Where I love your work, where it's like, no, like, let's put some thought into it. Let's be like, open our heart and just know it'll turn out good, you know. And I love how you said in another podcast, it's like you're the designer, right? You don't even do the painting, you know, you don't build the sinks and stuff. It's just like you're really conscious about that. At the end of the day, you're being guided and your heart is open enough to say, let's design it, let's make it pretty, let's make it authentic and gorgeous. I'm still a little bit learning that because I went from, like, I can't trust myself, and I do choose, like, let's go backwards out of safety to, like, okay, I live a guided life, learning trust, learning the mechanics, you know, and then seeing evidence of, like, things are getting better and better and better. Now I'm really at this time where I'm like, the guidance is there. Now my heart's open. How can it look? how can we make this beautiful and incredible and not worry about like, but for how long? Just 2 years? Or, oh no, what if it's only 4 years? Maybe we won't do that. Like maybe we'll back off that because it won't. No, I'm going to go hard in, full heart. Let's design it. That's why I love your work because it's like, let's make it what we possibly can, as beautiful as we can while we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, losing my dad definitely put things into a different perspective as far as um, what's important in life, and let's make it everything that we possibly want right now. Like everything is in the now.
Absolutely it is. Yeah.
Mm. This is so good and so exciting, and I feel like I have, well, I know I have been guided. We have been guided together for some reason. I don't know if I need to start reading books or come to your classes or join the Claire Club. Can you tell me more about the Claire Club?
Yeah, so I had a real like in-person physical career for 20 years in Colorado. And then since we've moved here, it's like it's time for me to really open up and then really get the business online and reach as many people as I possibly can. And so one of the things I did was open the Claire Club. And so I would say like the Claire Club is specifically there for you to really learn about your clairs. So there's a little course, just a little course, not to overwhelm anybody, but where I really teach you about each clair. And then there's two meditations where you can just experience it, like, oh, I feel this and I feel that. And then when that gets a little bit stronger, there's a little refinement meditation, and I do that for each clair. And at the end, we do all the clairs together because that's really where I want you to be trained, where you're just like, get that feeling off me, tell me. Or I keep seeing a blue balloon. Now tell me what that blue balloon means. Like at the end of the day, you're like, okay, I keep seeing something. Like,
Mm,
what's the meaning? It's like, because we're not always like, tell me, tell me, tell me. I mean, we're living a human life, so we got things to do and we're busy, right? But if you keep saying, like, I keep seeing this image in my mind, you use another Claire to get that guidance, the picture of guidance filled out. So you have that little course in between live coaching. So my intention with live coaching is where you just come and it's only $47 a month. And every other Friday, I do Friday because we keep it fun. I do it's got a weekend vibe. We just come in,
yeah.
we just practice and we just play. Nobody is judging you. But my job is I know that under the parameters I give you. So we always read I try to let you guys read me so I can validate you. Like if you're like, I don't know, I see, 2 feet hair, bangs and like a silk shirt. Like I'm like, I remember when I had the 2 feet bangs, and yeah, I wore, so I know myself so I can validate you as much as I can. And so I'll say, hey, just for 2 minutes, maybe you can read me at this age, or maybe you could read me at this, or whatever the thing is. And sometimes maybe you'll see my dad, so we don't assume that we all see the same thing. We don't. And then I'll have you read land. So there's, whether that be Glacier National Park or there was a farm that I grew up on. I mean, you could read that. I've had clients that read that land for 10 years, my students that I would grow and then they'd grow with me. So they kept training with me. And it's like you could go to that land all day long and it's so vast that and it changes, because again, your intuition goes in time and space. So today you could remote view, ancient Rome. Today you could be like really picking up energy of that property in 1980, and you could see the landscape and you like maybe the carpet was green in 1980, but today it's white. Well, I could, if you're like, I'm seeing green carpet. Yeah, I know that land, that house had green. You know what I mean? So when you're practicing with people that are like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, that will shut that down all day long. It's like, it's white. Oh, there's not a fence there. It's like maybe there was a fence
Oh,
there 20 years ago, though, and you're just picking the energy of that up. So my job is like we do a little teach. I can't not talk about intuition because I'm so obsessed with it and I just love it so much. And then we'll do a little practice stuff in the name of you getting me validating you. It's small enough still, Lynz, that I can validate each of you.
mm,
It's just an hour. We go really fast. It is as fun as possible because why not? At the end of the day, why not make it fun, right? And
I
get you
love it.
like I said, this one gal's like, I'm not good at this. Everybody else is good. I don't even know what you're talking about because we're talking about archetypes for a second. She's like, I don't know. And then I said, well, I want you guys to read Bruce. I didn't tell him he was on the other side. Just go ahead and read Bruce, you know. She sees the guy's sweatshirt and his facial. And like I told you, it's like, yeah, I told you, you can do this. And at the end of the day, everybody can and everybody already is. So you might as well like, oh, how did I do that? Oh yeah, I really felt that. You know, we're
Tap
just
into it and really take
yeah,
it, not take advantage, but use it to make decisions.
yeah.
Two things. 47 is one of my numbers. I don't know. I found out in the last couple of years that I was born at 9:47 p.m. So maybe that's the thing, but I always say 47 times or I have 47 pairs of shoes or so I love that.
Love that.
And then when you were talking about reading property or a house, has that served you? I imagine it's served you in house shopping and yeah.
Yeah, at first I was like, right, I was a real estate agent, so I love houses and
Yeah.
I love homes. Yeah, and I came from a broken home, so I never had a home. So home means so much to me, you know, on so many different levels, and to be able to create a home for my family is everything. And so when they were little, especially, you know, the kids like little homes. I mean, it's kind of a fun thing for the whole family to do. And there was like a stage where the guy, I could hear my guide like, "Don't go into that one." Okay, I won't. That doesn't mean they can't go look. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one who would be exposed to the energy in general. But then there was a time when my kids were a little bit older when we were moving back to Colorado where I didn't even ask because I was having a good time with the realtor. We are having a good time as a family. And we'd already gotten kind of into the house. And I heard my guide say, "Get those kids out of the basement." There's just really bad energy in that particular house in the basement there, right? Whatever, historic, it could be land-based, who knows? I don't care. If you care, you can ask. You can ask, like, why? What is it? You know, but at the time with the kids, it's like, oh, psst, everybody out. And they trust me. You know, I've earned their trust. I've kept their trust always. And I know I can do that because I ask for guidance for each kid. They're like totally different people, you know, and they need to be talked to very differently. So I can ask the guides, like, how do I say this to this one or do that? And they both popped out, no big deal. My husband was not affected and he could look at it. So it's
Mm,
just it's when it's just so like this is just guidance and we don't make it hysterical and nobody's in trouble and I can't not go in because I'm bad or it's bad and it might be, but it doesn't have it's like it's natural at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? Some
yeah.
places have history on it and that's just what's up.
That just made me think of I was on a trip with my daughter. We went out west.
Yes.
This is probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It was a very spur of the moment. We had one plan, and it was to go to a concert at Red Rocks. And
Yeah.
we just drove like wherever we wanted to. I let my daughter pick the hotels and stuff and pick some of our routes. And it was late at night one night, and something completely came over me. I was terrified. Like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And I instantly got scared. I instantly checked to make sure I knew where my gun was. It was so strange.
Yeah.
I've never felt like that before. And I didn't have any reason why. Like, I've maybe felt like that if I heard a noise outside of a hotel room door or something, for example. Anyway, we get to our hotel later that night after driving through that place, and my daughter could pick up on it too. And I find out that we drove through the site of Wounded Knee.
That'll do it. Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And
That'll do
ever since then, I'm like, there's something, I don't know if it's just the energy of what has happened there or if I have some sort of ancestral tie, but it keeps kind of coming back every now and then.
Yeah, I think on a lot of different levels, you're remembering it because you're still trying to understand it consciously, you know, and to just like simplify it, you were guided and your clairs picked up the energetic information on the land and responded accordingly, right? Because to our intuition, there's no such thing as time and space.
Mm,
But when you're walking into a house where there was a murder, the house still has energy of that murder right here, right now. Like, you know what I mean? So
mhm.
our energy bodies, they're not connected to time. So it may as well be still happening. And your intuition's still trying to understand that. But to simplify again, well, of course you felt that way because you're very ridiculously intuitive. You're highly, and then your daughter, yeah, of course. So does that make sense, honey? Where it's like
Yeah.
in your mind, our minds still try to understand it. because nobody told you, like, yeah, specifically it's coming through clairs. Like, at the end of the day, it's always through a clair. And that's exactly how it will happen. And again, sometimes the mind's like, that's interesting, let's study it more. And it could be a subject you do want to know more about because you
Mhm.
are susceptible to, energies on land, on locations. I want to say, I don't know. I just feel like when you're a northerner too, we're very connected to vast lands because we grew up in vast lands. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We're like I'm so much more sensitive to land energy than my New York friends. They don't care. Like they're talking, like their wiring is totally different. Where like the land was my friend.
Mm,
A lot of times when I was in so much pain, I walked the land. And so
mhm,
I'm very sensitive to how land feels. So for the rest of my life, wherever I go, that's an issue for me. Pick up
interesting.
the energy of the land no matter where I am because I was raised with land as a companion. And I sense that you can relate to that. Lynz, is that true?
For sure, for sure. I was drawn to this house. Um, our previous house, it was a very nice house, but the property didn't serve me in the way that this place does. I say I'm nestled in the woods and on the water. We see animals constantly, like ducks and cranes, and it's just my soul is so happy here. And I know that the reason that I was drawn here is it is enhancing my intuitive ability, my overall peace, my connection with nature, and my soul. But I do want to say one more thing about the wounded knee thing. Back when that happened, I was just kind of starting my what I would call a spiritual awakening. I was just I don't even think I meditated at the time.
Yeah.
So it was very early, and I think that was maybe one of my first like instances where hey, you've got more than what you realize. You've got something here. And not to say that it's just me. I think all of us have that. It's just some of us don't, like you said, you're just not aware of it.
Yeah. Well, even at the end of the day, you felt that you wanted to grab your gun, all the things you do, and it's like it's big and it's huge and it's confusing.
Hmm.
Because it's like nothing's going on. There's nothing, it's just like an energy or what have you. And our mind, she's trying to frame it and she's trying to understand it, but we can't necessarily. But at the end of the day, you can because it's coming, that information came through a Claire. But also, were you connecting to a specific ghost? You know what I mean? So it's the land, but it's the history. It could be a hologram, it could be a spirit. Spirit guides can be connected to it, which connects to you. I mean, there is complexity here. And at the end of the day, you go to your birth guide for all of those questions because it's simple. And then we are human. So and we're trying to understand. And to me, you have the right to understand. I'll ask how all day long. I'll ask why and how, my poor guide. But my brain, she needs to understand before she trusts it. My mind needs to understand before I'm just like, okay, I'll take a left. Like, why? Like, am I in danger? Yes. Now I trust it. I can move. But I could not start from that point of view. I wanted reason behind it. And to me, the more intelligent you are, the harder it is to train. But at the end of the day, you're way better at doing this work because it is more logical. It is more grounded in reason. It is more practical. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's an obstacle for sure. Just like being highly emotional is an obstacle to clarity. I can feel your feelings, I can feel their feelings, I can feel the feelings from my past, I can feel my mom's feelings across the ocean, whatever. Right? It's hard, it's complex. But that doesn't diminish that you do this work with your heart and with your empathy. It's just another beautiful thing in the long run. But they
Hmm.
are two obstacles to refining it, but you can refine it. And there is reason for it. And as you say, it was like so profound where you're like, my body was acting and responding to something
Yeah.
invisible, yeah, but visible with the clairs, your energetic eyes, the eyes of your clairs is the language of your soul. And at the end of the day, you're a soul having a three-dimensional experience. Like, so to me, it's paradoxical because the more you understand what you are as a soul, the way easier it is to be a human.
Mm.
That's like why we're here. We're not here to understand what kind of a soul we are and like, are we a soul? Gee, I don't know. Like at the end of the day, you are. And the more you just understand that logically, the more it is like, I love this cup of coffee. I love these birds. Like all the ways that you're experiencing that magic is your humanity. Because it's like you're refining as a soul against the backdrop of your humanity. And that's like that sweet spot of like at the end of the day, we're having a human experience. And that's why we're here. So we can stop obsessing about all the other stuff. Like, oh yeah, my energetic body is responding to this history on this land. How did I know that? I felt it. Maybe I saw something, right? And then your child did too. And we don't have to get hysterical. It's like, of course she did, because she's a soul. Like, of course she did, because she's intuitive. My little baby, my son, when he was 2, he saw spirits faster than I did. I mean, he just saw him faster, right? And the older he gets, the less he sees. Good, because he's 16, 17, 18. I don't want him, he doesn't need to obsess about
Right.
spirits. I mean, he's here to live a life, and he's like, that person's got bad energy. Like, yes, I'm glad you read it. Does that mean he treats him like crap? No, it's like bad energy. Like, I'll give you boundaries or whatever the moment requires. But yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'm looking at that wounded knee energy, just like how profound that was for you. Oh my gosh, and how, yeah, powerful. And
It's
you can't
really
shake it
interesting that
off.
it can just come back up too, just thinking about it. Like my whole body just goes into,
Your
something's not good.
nervous system. Your
Yeah.
nervous system remembers.
Yeah. My daughter, so I have a 15-year-old daughter and I have, yeah, wait, 15 and 13-year-old son and a 17-month-old. Uh, is she 17? She was born in December. Anyway, when the baby, I
Mhm.
think she sees as well. That was just something that came through in the first couple of months of life, and I don't notice it as much right now, but I really noticed it in her first probably 6 months. So
Absolutely. Yes.
I
Right. It
love
makes
these.
sense, right? They're coming from that dimension, and so when he was a baby, and like I said, even my daughter is like, she got that message. She was only 2, and that's where I was like, oh, this isn't just for adults. Like everybody experiences that, right? So it is, it's natural. They came from that dimension. So of course they're way more connected to it when they're little, and the human mind isn't like reason and like calculations, which again, at the end of the day, good. I'm glad our minds do that. And it can understand this work, a part of our nature as a soul. The mind wants to understand, and it has the right to do that. Um, and it is good when our kids, their intuition, the wiring is still always there. Now that they don't, again, and we become so empathetic out of a lot of things that have happened to us, right? So if our kids are in a little bit healthier environment, things can come up and then they can go away. It ebbs and flows. That's the nature of this work. As you know, like you're living your life and then your father crosses over. Like you're in a new season again, and with time it'll change again, right? Because so that happens with our intuition. Even when we're little tiny, they are very open, i.e. open as in they're still connected and they don't have that human mind of reason and over emotionality to like get confused about it. They're very clear,
Yeah,
and
they
thankfully
haven't
with
been
time they'll
conditioned to think it's a bad thing, and yeah,
exactly. But when we're untrained, we're like, that's dangerous, that's bad, that's weird. Like at the end of the day, no, it's not. And that we are like, that shouldn't be happening. That's the weird stuff. This
right.
stuff is natural and normal.
Mm. Well, I love that you are bringing this to people in the world to normalize it and make it like we don't have to go through 30, 40 years of questioning our intuition and pushing things away and rejecting our body's wisdom and our power and like so I love that this is becoming a little bit more, I don't want to say mainstream, but kind of mainstream, right?
Absolutely. New language. We got language for it now. Like a dream would be for me, like when we were kids, like who would be dream of being a psychic medium when they grow up? Nobody. You know what I mean? Like, but
Mhm.
now why not? Like if you could show a really great path on how to help people, whether you read just for people, it's a gift. It's beautiful. And when you know what you're connecting with, so people are like, you don't know what you're connecting with. Yeah, you do. If you get trained, you can know whether that's like the ghost BSing you, you know, or your guy, like you do. Like, it's just like if somebody walks into your house, you know who they are. You know, you've got eyes to see and you've got the things that'll show you exactly who they are. It's the same thing with our Clairs. Um, and also like at the end of the day, we don't all pick up on the same thing. Like I can do an exercise with you, with a group of you, and I was like, let's do a clairvoyant practice. One of you will see carpet, one of you will see, you know, the white fence, one of you will see a person dancing in the 70s, right? So we use our clairs, but nobody picks up on the same thing. Therefore,
Mm,
nobody's wrong. You know, and
mm.
I could get you to do a reading today and you read me today, but somebody next to you could read me 20 years ago. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means they're like, so our intuition is dimensional, you know, from, you know, of course, from a little bit lower to like the angels to heaven, you know, and everything in between. And then intuition connects, it's timeless. So it can go into the past, it can go into the future, it goes everywhere. And so again, that's why it's about training and refinement so you can command your intuition to go where you actually want it to. Without the fear of being right or wrong, because it will connect with what it connects with, you know. And then when you can understand that a little bit more with your mind, then you can develop those skills and those muscles to get it a little bit tighter, a little bit more refined, a little bit more realistic. You know, a little like I used to always read 5 years into the future, but I'd burn everything down now thinking that job was now, you know, that city was now. Like so, oh, I'm not where I should be. I got to be here. No, that was 5 years in the future. And I just got a glimpse of it because I could. But in and or maybe I'll start preparing for that shift a little bit now. But I would just like 5 year, you know, oh, I have this vision. Let me burn everything down now to make, you know, make my life fit that vision. And I didn't know I was doing it.
That's very much me. I'm a fire starter and a I burn things down. Maybe it's a timing issue too with me. That's interesting that you bring that up. Oh my God, this has been so amazing. Um, Man, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much for being here. This is so much fun. Oh, your last name.
Yes.
How interesting. Did you
Mhm.
choose that last name or is that just by chance?
It's my great grandmother's name. So I was doing business by my family name for the longest time, and then people showed up on my doorstep, and then people like that's again like as a medium, people like want to touch you because you make their loved ones on the other side feel real. So I did do a little bit of pivot, and I'm like, I'm going to take my great grandmother's name. I too, when I was a little girl, um, there was always a sad brown-eyed woman around me, and I didn't know who she was. And as I got older and finally saw pictures, that was my great grandmother. And so
Mm.
to me, it's a way to keep her with me, to give her honor and her dignity. And like at the end of the day, I want these women, you know, that were unseen and then unrecognized to be part of this journey with me. So I took her name.
I love it. Well, and the Claire Club, and you talk about your Claires, and it's just like, that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Like, well, her name is that. So let's just bring her on. And then that's what I'm saying. Like she's part of it. She's a part of it, as is all of our grandmothers and all of our great grandmothers. And to me, they're part of all of this too. So I just think it's this big full circle, and it's part of the work I do too to bring you know, our mothers and our ancestors in this work too, with that mother's intuition that got so kind of you know, we do respect mother's intuition, but at the end of the day, we sometimes still feel like it's not real, and it is real. Like I said, when my son walked in, smiled at me, but I could feel like something was wrong. That was more real, you know, than the walls in my house. It was real, and you could touch it and taste it, and you knew was going on because of my intuition. I was able to take care of that situation where my little guy was trying to be a man and take care of himself and not bother me. Like, no, I'm the mom. I'll take care of that. It's my job to do that for you until it's not, you know?
Yeah.
Which will never
Well,
happen. But is my, it'll be my child always.
yep, yep, yep. Well, and women have been suppressed for so long. I feel like there's a big shift in feminine, like sovereign, standing in your power. We're not doing that anymore.
No, and when you live a guided life and you're like, they say, you know, show up, you show up. And, you know, who's going to tell you to sit back down? You know what I mean? I dare you.
I love that.
Yeah. You're not alone. You know, you got the all of heaven behind you, you've got ancestors behind you, and sometimes you don't, but you do. And if you can experience that really tangibly, who can stop you?
Mhm.
you know?
Mm. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank
Please
you.
remind our listeners, where they can find you.
Mhm.
And we should also talk about your little quiz too, because I did that last night. That was fun.
Oh, good. Yeah, people really love this where I do a Which Claire Are You quiz. So they're just questions to try to narrow down, when you walk in a room or do you have visions? And at the end, it'll show you which Claire is the strongest in you. And a lot of people are like, I got two of these, or I tested twice and they were different both times, but they're like, yeah, I'm very empathetic, and or I'm very clairvoyant. So it's just Kate, Kate, Saint, which is spelled out Saint, Claire, Clair. You could do Kate St. Clair /quiz, or I think there's a little button on the website for the quiz because it's something we really focus on. A, people love it, and B, that's a great place to start on really learning about your intuition is learning which Claire is the strongest in you.
Mm. Yeah, it's so fun.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you, Lynz.
Okay, thank you so much. And um,
You're
yeah,
welcome.
I'm so excited to read your book and learn more about you and dive more into Claire's myself because there's something there for me. I know.
Thank you. And vice versa. I've been able to listen to some of your podcasts and like you speak my language. We've got similar accents. And I
Yep.
do this human design stuff, I think is so important. Again, like the more you understand what type of a soul you are, what you're here to do, like how you're here to do it, we're all different. And the more you know specifically what's right for you, who can stop you from doing and living the life you come here to do, which at the end of the day, that's our biggest priority. We want each other to be fully who we are, not what we want you to be, not who we think you should be, but who the hell are you? It's so
Yes.
exciting because none of us are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Perfectly said.
Thank you so much, Liz. It's been so fun being here. I think I could talk to you for hours. So,
I know. I have no idea how long we've been talking, but it's been so good. I could keep talking. I just need to go get some more water. Alrighty. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, my loves, thanks for hanging with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with someone and like, subscribe, leave me a rating, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next week.